I'm a DJ boy, going to Dcentral, minting NFT, farming DeFi use, being crypto poor but JPay rich.
Creating layer ones and creating an opportunity to bring new innovation into the space is exactly what Web3 allows. So, without further ado, from Crown Sterling, as a representative, please help me in joining and welcoming to the stage Mr. Robert Grant.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to be here today. So, if you were here in the earlier session, I talked about data sovereignty and the importance of data sovereignty and why it's going to be so important for us to establish proof of self in the next sort of iteration of where the industry is going. And if we go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So maybe I have a clicker. No one gave me a clicker over there, so basically, data sovereignty is all about the importance of being able to establish who we are and why we want to control our own data. Data is an extension of who we are, and that extension is so important to today's world, because if you notice what's happening in the world today, we have all kinds of companies that are mining our data in this new thing called neuromining. Now, if we wonder why society has become so terribly polarized, it's in large part because of the fact that we are, all of us, willingly entering into chambers of our own conditioning bias on social media. Now, we all get dopamine when we find out that we're agreed with by other people. We get likes on our social media pages. And as we get those likes, we have more and more drugs. So big tech industry has found a way to be able to be the biggest drug dealer on the planet without even having to manufacture any drugs. So what does this mean? It means we live in a world now where it's not that I can even change my mind anymore, because actually these big tech companies know exactly what I'm going to do through predictive analytics before I even know what I'm going to do next. So this means that if I'm a hammer, then everything's going to look like nails. And I don't even know, I'm not even sentient to the fact that I'm a hammer in this context. So how do we avoid this world? Well, the only way we can avoid this world is by making sure that we own our own data. So a fundamental aspect of this is, first and foremost, that there has to be a data bill of rights. A data bill of rights is an extension of our individual rights and freedoms as human beings to be able to claim our own ownership of our data, so that that data cannot be taken by anybody else. In other words, we believe that data is the intangible personal property of the original producers of that data. It shouldn't be owned by some company just because I decided to be on Facebook. Does anyone here know how much money Facebook would have to write you in a check this year for your membership on Facebook because of all the things that they attach to you with beacons following you? Not only when you're on Facebook, but all over your browser usage as well. They'd each have to write us a check of over $2,000 this year. Did you know that it costs you more than $200 in value per month to be on Facebook? And when you look at it that way, in that context, does it make you think, well, do I even really need to be on Facebook at that price? And the value of that data is doubling, almost doubling every year. It was $1,300 the year before and only $800 the year before that. So what we see is that in order for democracy to be maintained, there has to be a mechanism where we can put a fence around our data. And that data can include psychographics, demographics. It's all the subconscious behavioral data that we're not even candidly aware of. And that's the most pernicious, because then with that data, they can direct what information is going to come to you through AI. And that AI can then basically send to you, if you're a Democrat, you're only going to hear messaging about Democrats. If you're a Republican, you're only going to hear messaging that's consistent with being a Republican. So then when it comes to election time, we now have over 40% of the US population believes we're headed towards a civil war. Did you guys know that? That was just polled this week. The reason is because there's so much disenfranchisement going on, because people feel like they're just completely unbelieving that anyone could see the world any differently than they do. And we have lost our ability to empathize one with another. That muscle of empathy has all but become vestigial. It is atrophied. So, I don't know about you guys, but I like the notion that I can still make choices and change my mind on things through spirited conversation and debate with others. That's part of being a human being. So how do we protect this? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to encrypt it. We have developed a quantum VPN technology that goes on your phone and actually encrypts everything. I'm not just talking about your messages and your telephone calls. I'm talking about your browser history, your geolocation. Talking about all the voice, the Siri interactions. Everything becomes fully encrypted under this quantum-resistant VPN technology. Then once you have VPN that technology, then you can actually capture all of your data, and on our platform, you can NFT it. You can decide how you want that data to be sold, if ever at all. To me, it's no different than when I was in college and people would say, hey, let's go sell some blood, plasma, because like we don't have any money. I actually see that for the first time in human history, human beings can now generate value and create value just by being, not by doing. Think about that for a moment. Is there an opportunity now to use data? The world's largest market in the world, it surpassed oil and all the world's natural resources in 2018. If that's the case, then we need to make sure we stake our claim to our own data. And if we don't now, how in the heck can we ever prove who we say we are? This is why Crown Sterling exists. We've created innovative blockchain technology. It's layer 1. And also we have swaps as well as wraps to be able to work on all other blockchains. We already have an Ethereum wrap. We're now moving towards a Solana wrap. And then we're also going to be going to Cosmos and all the other blockchains that have layer 1s. We want them to be able to use our quantum-resistant encryption because we know that right now the government has actually established themselves as the ultimate arbiter because they've been able to establish a world where the encryption they use is one-time pad and the encryption everyone else uses is elliptic curve or RSA. And as a result, that means they can crack all these encryptions on their own using brute force. We've created an architecture and a system so that they cannot do that anymore. And this is why this is so important. So, data needs better protection. The US government just announced that they are requiring that every branch of the US government be on quantum-resistant encryption within the next 3 months from now. Now, the government doesn't do anything fast, and they just came out with this only a couple months ago. But who's actually advocating for it for the blockchain industry? Who's actually making sure? Because, by the way, none of the encryption in blockchain today is quantum resistant. So why is it that the industry isn't also having to keep up with these standards? Well, we can. We have one-time pad encryption. It's the only one that is truly quantum resistant because it's based a priori on information theory, not on number theory. Any number theory-based encryption, including shortest integer test, which is also what is also referred to as N-true type encryption, it was recently cracked in only 53 hours on a standard computer. What we don't want is to be stuck with an encryption that everyone can believe is quantum resistant, but is actually still breakable to state actors. Blockchain, there's no industry association advocating for this, so I'm telling you about this now. Look it up. The key to sovereign future is going to be quantum-resistant NFTs. All our memories, all our experiences will be NFT'd eventually. And you will decide if you ever want to sell it or if you don't, if you really want to pass it on to your children or maybe your own next substrate. So we provide quantum-resistant protection, VPN. We encrypt the data with quantum-resistant encryption, then build the NFT. You control all of it. All of it's decentralized. then you could take it to a data exchange if you decide you want to monetize. It's about claim your data, protect it, control it, and then you decide if you want to monetize it. You may never want to monetize it. But you should have that right because it is your intangible personal property. We do that with one-time pad encryption. We provide end-to-end encryption messages, and network fees also go to the node validators. The future of data sovereignty is going to be proof of self. Crown Sterling wants to be the platform that allows you to build your technologies either on our platform or in combination with our platform, both in terms of encryption and compression and quantum VPN technology. We want to be there to help the world maintain its own individual data sovereignty for a much better future. Thank you very much.